Hello and welcome to our third part of the sixth module. In this part, we talk about the smart cities vision, a vision and execution of making the cities of India smart. Now, what this smartness could be. We examine that initiative. We see how information and communication technology was integrated into the smart cities mission, how mobility becomes a part of the smart cities mission, how waste management is done under this mission, and how energy efficient we become under this mission. So let's begin. Smart cities mission. Before we delve into this mission in detail, it's important to know that the mission was launched by the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on 25th of June 2015. It's also important to know that the project was officially shut down on the March of 31st, 2025. So as we record this lecture today, and whenever you see this, you should be aware of the fact that the Smart Cities mission is now officially shut down. How far did we accomplish the objectives of the Smart Cities mission? How far did we come in the urban renewal of the smart cities? How far did we really make those 100 cities that were selected smart? So the smart cities mission was therefore we're saying it was an urban renewal and retrofitting program by the government of India with a mission to develop smart cities across the country and making them citizen friendly and sustainable. Retrofitting means to install new and upgraded softwares into old machines so that the whole thing existing has got the same physical form, but its soul is upgraded. That is what is retrofitting. Smart Cities mission, the vision and goals. These were the objectives of Smart City mission. Community at the core. Now, like I just said, making a city smart does not mean that everyone over there was supposed to be highly intellectual. A smart city meant that the community, the people living there, were the core of planning and implementation. The people-centric approach in policy making, in planning of the cities, was what the heart and soul of Smart Cities mission. More from less. The ability to generate greater outcomes with the use of lesser resources. We've studied in the previous modules, and we call this optimum utilization. Cooperative and competitive federalism. Now, federalism is a constitutional concept, which means the relations between the center and the state. India is federal in form and unitary in spirit. So the cooperative and competitive federalism, the cities selected through competition, flexibility to implementation of projects. Now, because the states cannot really function without the cooperation of the center, therefore, the smart cities that were selected under this mission had to be flexible to the implementation of the projects, which formed the core of this mission again. Integration, innovation, sustainability. Now, this is where the smartness comes in. We started in the previous module about innovations. Now comes integration, innovation, and sustainability. Innovating methods, integrated and sustainable solutions. In our previous part of this module, we studied about urban planning, how that was sustainable, what we could do. Previous module to that, we studied about innovations. We studied about thermal energy, solar energy, wind energy. Now we're studying about the Smart Cities mission, categorically linked to the smart cities of India. The vision that it had, the execution that happened, the examination of how far was that vision achieved. and about the ICT, the Information and Communication Technology integration into the Smart City mission. The next is technology as means, not the goal. Now, it's a very social concept that says the means and the ends. The ends are what is to be achieved, the means are how we achieve that. Now it says that to achieve a certain goal, you need to carefully select the means that you're opting. The technology should not be the end in itself, but rather a means to achieving a sustainable goal. So, a careful selection of technology which is relevant to the context of the cities must be applied. We started earlier when I was telling you about the United Nations Paris Agreement and the other conventions that happened about how no straitjacket formula or one size fits all works with regards to countries, because every country is different. Now, similarly, each place in India, each little district in India, and of course the states are different. And in no possible way can one technology suit every district, can suit every urban planning. So therefore, there has to be a careful selection of technology which is relevant to the context of cities. It cannot be a pan-India formula. Convergence. Sectorial and financial convergence. Now, we studied about sustainable development goals, and there I mentioned that the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues that sustainable development goals of 2030 faced in achieving their desired result was the lack of financial support. So, mindlessly throwing money into expensive projects is not as effective as sectorial and financial convergence. So, that has to be integrated, that had to be integrated in the Smart Cities mission. So, the components of the Smart Cities mission: first, area-based development. Upgrading the existing urban areas, like in Mumbai, there was a Bhendi Bazaar that was upgraded. So, specific, like we just studied this vision and goal about careful selection of technology relevant to the context of cities. Similarly, every city that was selected to be sustainably developed under this mission had a redevelopment which was very subjective to it. Retrofitting, like I explained to you earlier. It's the enhancing of infrastructure for efficiency. Greenfield projects, establishing new urban areas focused on sustainability, like the new town in Kolkata. In the previous part of this module, we studied how urbanization is bound to happen and how the urban planning must be done so that everything is sustainable and there is less environmental stress. So, greenfield projects are one such area-based development. Now comes a pan-city solution. Implementing an information and communication technological solution across sectors like e-governance, waste management, and urban mobility. I think you all are aware of the app Arogya Setu. We used it during COVID. Now, that was an ICT implementation during COVID where if you couldn't go to the test centers to get your reports of once your test was done, the reports were available on the Arogya Setu app. Your verification of vaccine was available on that app, so that you need not commute again, you need not travel again to the hospital or the center wherever you got your test done. Other than that, there are other government portals like the DigiLocker, where e-governance comes in, so that it cuts the cost of commuting, it cuts the trouble, it cuts the hassle, and it's more efficient. So, implementing ICT solutions across sectors like e-governance, waste management, and urban mobility. Urban mobility can include ICT in ways of metros, Waste management again could be segregation. Smart AIs, smart technologies and AIs can be used. We studied about IoTs in our fifth module that can be implemented in waste management. But in doing all of this, the smart cities mission faced a lot of challenges. The lack of clarity. Now, even today, if I was to tell you what exactly is a smart city, I wouldn't have a clear definition of what a smart city is or what it's supposed to be. So, when something cannot be defined, figuring out how to make that thing smart is an is another challenge. Now we know, like, okay, let's say the mission was named Beautiful Cities Mission. Now, beautiful, we could have meant that it means adding more greenery, adding more plants, adding more flowering shrubs to make it look more beautiful, coloring the buildings in a certain way. But smart is an ambiguous term, and it really complicates about policy making, and it also complicates resources allocation. You can't be really definitive about what a smart city is supposed to mean. So the lack of clarity was one big challenge in the implementation of resources towards this mission. A top-down approach. So under this mission, the elected representatives had diminished roles, which impacted democratic governance. Like we studied in another module of ours where I mentioned about hyper-local action, which means that it is the people at the ground level who are aware of what's happening, and it is them who should be approached towards the implementation of such missions. Flawed city selection process. So it was not the cities that were selected were not selected on who needs to become a smart city. Rather, it was a competitive selection, and that really overlooked the diverse urban realities. And like we mentioned earlier about inadequate funding, the funding model is insufficient for the vast needs of urban development. Governance structure issues. The model conflicts with the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Social impact. Displacement of communities during project implementation disturbs urban life. Now, in a competition, let's say a city won and there were now to be a smart city. So when you implement such a mission without keeping into consideration the realities that are existing on that urban city, it leads to a lot of chaos in the first place and a displacement of communities due to such project implementation. Amritsar, for that matter, was chosen as one of the cities under this mission, and the whole area around the Golden Temple was bought under the Smart Cities mission, and a lot of shops faced a lot of displacement and trouble while the whole rewiring of that complex area was being done. So there's a social impact, and all of these factors must be considered before implementation. The key initiatives of the Smart Cities mission was the integrated command and control centers, which operated in all the 100 cities, which improved the city management. Traffic was controlled with these control rooms, public safety, installation of over 84,000 CCTV cameras for enhanced security. Of course, when the state is looking out for you, you feel safer. There was a proper management of water supply. The solid waste was also managed with technology. Mobility improvements, construction of smart roads and cycle tracks, and of course, education and health was developed smart classrooms and e-health centers were also really made up in a very efficient way under this mission. The recommendations that came up during the implementation were about governance again. And as we speak today, of course, the Smart Cities mission has been officially rolled back now, but it's important so that in future, whenever the government of India plans to roll out another such mission for other new cities, these recommendations from the previous implementation should definitely be kept in mind. And if any one of you plans to be a part of the policy making, these are the pointers that help for a better implementation of such projects. So it was said that you need to appoint a dedicated CEO with a fixed tenure and include MPs in advisory forums. Now, because the administration is everything, you need to appoint a person who, with the advice of the MPs, implements these things at the ground level. Shift emphasis towards comprehensive pan city projects to optimize resources. Of course, optimum utilization is the key to anything that wants to be sustainable and environmental friendly. Capacity building, strengthen the urban local bodies and provide central government assistance, ensure timely execution of projects with active ministry involvement. Now, just rolling out a project is not important and sufficient. It needs to be follow up, it needs timely execution, it needs equal dedication and emphasis on why it was conceived in the first place. Now, coming to the examination of India's smart cities initiative with regards to mobility, these are a few examples of how and where the implementation was successfully done. In Ahmedabad, there were GPS enabled buses, there were real time traffic controls, there was an integrated public transport and civic services in Surat, there were cycle tracks in Chennai, and the new town Kolkata was formed as per the urban planning of the new town in sustainable ways. Smart cities mission with regards to waste management. Now, the information communication technology were being embedded, the smart sensors were being embedded into waste management. In Agra, the vehicle tracking systems were put in so as to avoid air pollution or to minimize it. Trivandrum app and Gas GPS vehicle monitoring rollout was done. All of this was done to minimize the waste being generated wherever we could avoid it. Water management. Now, smart metering and SCADA system was something very interesting I researched during the preparation of this module. SCADA means supervisory, control, and data acquisition. Now, SCADA is a control system architecture which comprises of computers, networks, data, and communications and graphical user interfaces for supervision of machines and processes. It uses the artificial intelligence, it uses the internet, it uses the technology to supervise anything. Anything could be traffic regulation, water management, and this was done in water networks across 17,000 kilometers. So, all of this about the Smart Cities mission, about India's vision that was rolled out in 2015 to its culmination in 2025, its examination how certain cities in India could integrate information technology, could inculcate the sustainable and citizen friendly regimes into their smart city mission to have better efficiencies with regards to mobility, waste management, and energy conservation. All of this forms, again, a very important part with regards to your static part of knowledge, because the smart cities mission, as I mentioned, is now officially shut down, but regardless, it remains an important milestone in the formation of various cities across India. And that's it for this part of the module. I hope there was something interesting that you figured out in this, and I'll see you in the next part of this module, where we talk about green buildings and responsive architecture. Thank you.